right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode here on the Fit Father Project podcast. Again, this is Dr. Anthony Balduzzi. I'm the founder and CEO here at the Fit Father Project. And today I'm joined by my friend, Michael Keller II. He's one of our amazing program members, a man who took part of our Transformation Challenge that we hosted early in January. And Michael wanted to come on to share his story and share how the Fit Father Project has changed and transformed his lives in ways beyond the physical. So, Michael, thank you for being here. I would love for you to introduce yourself to everyone listening, your name, your age, where you're from, a little bit about your family and what you do from work, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. No, this is a pleasure, and I appreciate you having me on. So, as you mentioned, Michael Keller. I am 44 years old. I live in Fort Worth, Texas. I have four boys, aging from 22 down to 11. Quite the challenge. I do. I'm a transportation manager for a shipping company called Pitney Bowes. And a lot of my day to day is really wrapped up with sitting behind a desk, just like I'm doing now, rarely getting up. Sometimes 6 hours will pass and I've never moved from this chair. So that in a nutshell is what I do for a living. So excited to be here.
So let's talk about where you kind of found yourself with your health in your 40s. You're working this busy job, you have the kids, used to be an athletic guy. So take us back to kind of some of the struggles you were having that kind of prompted you to search for the Fit Father Project and eventually join. And even the happenstance of how you ended up finding an old buddy in the gym and how that all happened.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So, you know, between 20 and 30 to 40 years old, I played football as a young man, loved the gym, loved to work out. I mean, I even had a personal goal to bench press 400. I mean, that was just in my mind. Both my uncles spent a lot of time working out in the gym. So it was just kind of a family affair. And with boys, that was just a natural thing that we wanted to do. And what I always recognized was that I did all this working out, but I never really looked the way I wanted to look. And I did know academically that health had a part in it. And then over time, I obviously recognized that health played a major part in it. As I got into my 40s and my teenagers became men, and I started recognizing the fact that I'm having trouble sticking up with these boys, these men. They're wearing me down, they're wearing me out. And as my job became more sedentary, where I wasn't, on the operations floor, I wasn't in the trenches, I wasn't moving pallets around, I wasn't getting it out of the forklift. I was gaining weight. No matter how hard I worked in the gym, I gained weight. It was something that I figured at some point I would be able to work it off. And then as time goes on, and you read about things like losing testosterone at the age of 40, you start getting downhill. My uncles are telling me, boy, wait till you get to 40. Now they're saying, well, boy, wait till you get to 50. I didn't want to have that in front of me anymore. I was tired of it. I was sick of it. So back to my friend in the gym. So this is actually a brother in Christ that I go to church with here locally, and he's a coach for a local football team. And I had noticed that this guy, he played football at Texas Tech, and he was always a big guy too. But I could tell he was struggling with weight too. And one day he's on the treadmill. I'm in there. I'm trying to do my thing, and I noticed, man, he looks good. I didn't have any quaffs about going up to him and saying, John, what are you doing? He said, well, I'm not starving to death. I'll tell you that much. So I'd asked him, I said, well, I mean, I really want to know. I'm genuinely interested. And he said, it's a Fit Father program. The man that started this has a great story around his father and the impact generationally we have as fathers and men, that we have a responsibility not just to live and treat our bodies in a specific way, but we're essentially robbing ourselves from life. We're robbing others of life in this world when we don't take those right steps. So immediately, I think I was still working out, and I'm googling Fit Father program, and really what stuck out, um, Anthony, is that in your website it said iron sharpens iron as one man sharpens another, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, it was almost like a God thing. So I looked into it, I read into it, I immediately I bought the first 90 days. I was like, you know what? I want skin in the game. I've done everything. I've done Body for Life. I've done P90X. I've done keto. I even did something called the Owl Diet. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try it. It obviously worked for John. He spoke very highly of it. So let's go. I was very excited, got started right away, and learned so much, so much. At first, I was like, man, there's so much reading going on. I feel like I got a homework schedule. But I'm going to tell you, Dr. Balduzzi, is that after I was telling my wife this, I was like, you know, I feel like I can't get started. I'm just ready to get back in the gym because that's what I've always done. But I wasn't rewiring the brain. I wasn't trying to understand the foundation. A lot of the things that you said stuck with me. You can't exercise a bad diet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, really, what are we talking about when we go to places where we get fries and a burger? I mean, how much work is involved there, and is it calorie dense? Does those things make sense? And the more that you talked about these things, you were building what I didn't realize at the time, but I told my wife this. I said, you're building a foundation. And, you know, no fault to anyone's own, but there's so much stuff out there. It's like Vegas, you know, there's
Mm-hmm.
do this, do that, do this. But everyone's so quick to jump into it because they want those results. But really, you're not going to do anything that's going to sustain anything successful until you build the right foundation, or it'll be on sinking sand.
Yeah, it's so well said. And so you started building these foundations, which for you was rewiring some thinking that you had around, oh man, I could just out exercise this stuff. You start paying more attention to nutrition. Then you're analyzing your choices. So I want to dive into that. As you're starting to lose some weight, what are some of the actual changes you're making with your eating in align with the Fit Father nutrition plan and approach? What do you actually start changing in your life with your food intake?
One thing that the program does very well is it doesn't leave you wondering what to do. The videos are great. The short snippets are great. They certainly give you a visual piece to the learning piece and the piece that you read. I got on Amazon and I literally followed the instructions. I'm pretty good at doing what I'm told at first. So I got on Amazon and I started ordering some things. Even got the blender you recommended. I know that sounds crazy, but got the blender. I wanted to be successful, and I think every man does. I really do. I think that we start off with good intentions. So I didn't want to give myself any excuse of my own to say, hey, this didn't work out because of me. So I started those things, and immediately, within the first, I'd say 3 to 5 days, the feeling of how I felt just changed dramatically. I had no idea that you could really eat spinach with everything. I mean, I literally do. I have those big containers of spinach in my fridge, and I put it on everything. A matter of fact, you know, raw, cooked, it doesn't matter. I eat spinach and everything, but those are those are fundamental things to our nutrition that I didn't even really I took for granted. I just assumed, yeah, it's spinach, it's good. Popeye ate it, whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
when I felt the way that I did, and I started eating the way that I did, the working out is difficult, but I was already used to that. And I remember you saying, and I think it was in a video, but it could have been in the booklet, but one of your early members, didn't even work out.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't even work out. So I knew, man, if I got it, I'll do the workout, but if I do this, I know I'm going to be successful. And man, the pounds just started coming off like immediately. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
was a lot of motivation at first, and then things start to become normal. Things start to become challenging, and that's where I think the program really challenged me. I think anyone could do something for a couple weeks or 30
Mm-hmm.
days, but I had to travel, and you had one for that too. And I like to drink beer. I mean, how do I handle those things?
Hmm.
And I so many different challenges. And how am I going to deal with going out of town? I can't have my shake, but
Hmm.
you cover those things. You went over those things. So, I think I got to a place where things were going really, really well. Um, and had a lot of success, and I don't know how far into the story you want me to go, but when this happened in 2019, and when I in January of 2020, I got COVID,
Hmm.
and I stopped working out. It was really hard to get back to working out, and as I'd been doing it for so long. I did it from Memorial Day to January 2019 to 2020. Lost nearly 30 pounds, feeling good, looking good, got a lot of notice. And, COVID hits, I get sick. I didn't even know it was COVID at the time until some of the data around losing your taste and losing
Hmm.
your smell came out. And, never really rebounded from that. I never really got to a point where I was trying to work out, I was trying to eat right, but I fell back into my bad habits, and
Hmm.
I signed up for Fit Father, and I think even after the time I committed to the full. I was a lifer, man. I was a lifer. I got into the place where I was like, you know what? I got this thing. I know it works. I've done it before. And then it was your your contest that got me back into it. So I'm thankful for that, by the way.
Yeah, that's amazing. I want to make this timeline very clear. You've had a long history exercising. You get COVID, and it kind of just totally derails your momentum. And
Yeah.
then, kind of coming into January of 2020, when we run this contest, you're like, yep, this is something that I think can give me a container for more motivation. And that helped you get back on track. And you're able to ride that momentum and use the program to tackle the challenges of your travel, of occasionally wanting to have some drinks, having a nutrition plan that wasn't overly complicated, and you start losing weight and feeling better.
Yeah, absolutely. From 2019 to 2020, I had a lot of success with the program. I went through phase one, phase two, phase three. I was ready for old school muscle, and January hit, and it was a train wreck. And I remember actually being out of town. I was in Jacksonville, Florida, and I was getting a lot of accolades, man. I was like, dude, you look good. I was preaching the Fit Father thing, and I was telling people that I mean, Anthony, I would wake up. We had a conference for like 12 hours a day. I would wake up. I was still hitting the gym. I was still eating right then. And then Wednesday, I got sick, flew to Philadelphia, came back home. I couldn't do nothing. I felt like I couldn't even like walk for 2 weeks. And then, coming back out of that, it was so foggy. It was January. We started getting into February. It was, cold. Didn't feel like working out. Then I started compromising. And it didn't happen overnight. These are little bits and pieces of things that have occurred to take away what I had retrained my brain to do. Those habits didn't just switch overnight. They didn't become habits overnight, and I didn't lose those habits overnight. So, from March on the lockdown till we were, kind of the gym started opening back up. I kind of really went back to what I'd done for my 20s and 30s, going back to the gym, trying to, out exercise my diet. And the whole time I'm thinking, I know this isn't right. Some of the diet things stuck, but I started going out a little bit more, started drinking a little bit more, started it just etching away at all the progress. And I got all the way back up to almost the starting weight from Memorial Day 2019. And when I kicked back off in January, and it was so defeating, I felt so terrible. And I was already in the contest was just an additional motivator. think you sent out an email about bundling some supplements, and I was already starting to work back out because it was January, first part of the year, right? So I wanted to get back into it, and then the contest really just took it off. So
I want to get into this because I think this is probably one of the most relatable things possible. You'd follow the plan, you knew the principles at work, but there were a series of things that happened in your life between sickness, losing some motivation, getting busy at work that you backtracked. You slipped back to the point where you actually knew this is not what I should be doing, but you do it anyways because we all do that sometimes. What How did you get back on the horse? Obviously the contest was a thing, but like let's talk about the mental side of this thing. I think it could be one of the most important things we pull out of your story is like what makes a man recommit after he's retreaded all the way back, and what's made you successful today because you've been able to harness this new power. So how'd you find it?
so January hits, and I I knew that I wanted to start taking steps in the right direction, and I was like, I'll tell you what, and this is probably going to be more relatable to men than anything, is that shame will cause you not to go back.
Mhm.
Shame will keep you in this vicious cycle of eating, not doing right by your body, not doing the right things with sleep and alcohol abuse and things like that. Shame will keep you in that place. And then a lot of things happened spiritually and physically where I was like, hey, I was in a great place, and I learned a lot, and I felt like this was sustainable. This is exactly where I need to be. I need to go back to what I've proven that not just works for me, but works for all of us when it comes to how we view the rest of our 40s, the rest of our 50s, the rest of our 60s, because I was literally back where I felt like I can't believe it. And I was so defeated in January. The idea around recommitting and getting back into it, and you know what what it was, you your emails, man, your emails. I get emails from Fit Father all the time, but it was one of your emails in January, and I think it had to do with something about the New Year bundle or something like a fire sale, and I was like, boom, that's it. And then it wasn't, just until that, I was already in. I knew where I needed to be, but it was that, and I'm going to say accountability in such a way. We all get a lot of traffic, we all get a lot of emails, but if that wasn't in place, I may have gone a different direction. I don't know. It's hard to say, but I'm going to tell you, there was already a seed that had planted in 2019, and it sprouted. It sprouted quick. With the right watering, the sun out, I was moving, I was shaking. I wilted in 2020, man, and I'm back in 2021, back strong, and it was that learning and investing and knowing and proving to myself that this is something that works. This is something that's sustainable. And I don't want to go another year. I don't want to go another 5 years. I don't want to go another 10 years without being the baseline, this being the skeleton of how I think about my physical nutrition, my spiritual walk, how I'm living life, how I'm engaging my boys, and I'll get into that too here in a little bit. But
Mhm.
changing the way that my family eats. They were eating the same garbage I was eating, but when I was doing Fit Father, they were eating good. They were losing weight. It was incredible. So I think there's a lot of that just kind of shelled at once, and then
Mhm.
kind of the fire was a lot of those things coming together and knowing that I've gone through this. I put in the work. I put in the work. I put in the time. I've learned a lot, and I felt very comfortable coming back to Fit Father. The brotherhood is great. The communication. There's a lot of transparency. I think without it, we would struggle because, like I said, shame will keep you in a place where sometimes you can't get out of. But I knew I could go back and say, you know what? I took a major step back, but I'm back.
Mhm.
I'm in. life, as long as there's life, there's hope. So I'm in.
Hmm. It's amazing you were able to get on the other side of that, because I think there's a lot of guys listening to this and might be caught in the shame cycle like right now, listening to this. You know, another night of bad food, the
Yep.
guilt of it the next day,
Right.
rinse and repeat, right? I mean,
Right.
I've been there myself, but you felt like you saw a track record of success with this program when you tried it in 2019. You trusted it. You used, and this is props to you, you used some signs in your life, whether an email from us or a contest. You ultimately took some action and gave yourself the ability to recommit through that. So how's your life changed since? I want to get into all the powerful changes you made. You're obviously on fire. Your family's changing. How much weight have you lost? Like, what's going on right now? Like some of the benefits of the transformation and the change
Yeah.
you've made.
So the benefits from my perspective, I kind of felt when I kicked this back off that, immediately I started feeling good, started seeing the results, and then that first week of travel, I think it happened in March. I was like, oh man, I just need 5 months where I don't travel because that's where the contest time frame is. But I had to deal with that, Anthony, and you know, I, I executed it well. I took the shakes, I took the supplements, I prepared. There's a saying that I've said and I've heard it said so many times. Um, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, and that is absolutely true with your accountability emails. I'm in phase 4 right now, and you send me faithfully emails on Sunday. You're like, hey, do you know what you're going to do with your workout today or this week? And without that kind of like reminder and that nudge, it would be hard to stay on track. But what I experienced in the first 30, 60, 90 days is immediately um, my my 3 boys that live with me and my wife, we started eating differently. Um, they started seeing results as a result of me seeing results. Started taking my 13-year-old to the gym, and he's got one for you. He said, "Dad, why can't they have a Fit Son project?" And I said, well, let me pitch that one, but we'll see, bud. Man, I have a relationship now with my 13-year-old that extends beyond just good old dad on the couch.
Hmm.
I can actually work out, and he can reap the benefits at an early age
Hmm.
that I didn't get to have with my father.
Yeah.
So, a lot of those realities of what I'm building a legacy from my kids is coming true. I didn't have that trajectory from that perspective. And he's actually like, Dad, what are we doing this week? It's really cool.
It's really, really cool. I mean, that's what Fit Father's all about. You are a fit father, my friend. And I mean, the changes you've made by you living in this new path, they go far beyond your own physical fitness. And that is amazing. I'm kind of thinking right now what the trajectory of your son, what's going to happen to your son as he continues to strength train over the next 3-4 years throughough high school. He gets
Right.
bigger and stronger. His confidence goes up. He starts realizing he can attack his goals through consistent effort and hard work.
Yeah.
That's a powerful story.
Yeah. And I think that for me, I think that we each individually have a good story. And for me, I got into this because of my kids and because of, I coach. I'm active. I love to play football with them. They wrestle now, and they're getting so good. And I can tell you that my two youngest, I can see it. We bought an air fryer, last year during COVID, and man, they were eating fries, fried food every day, and he was ballooning up, and I don't know, someone said something to him, and they're always, pinching their stomach, and they're so self-conscious. I was like, you know what, we're done with that. We're done with that. I don't want them to try to figure out and navigate how this should look. I got it right here, man. I mean, I've learned all this. I know how to do it. So Is it perfect? No, it's not. Is every day going to be exactly how you want it to look? No. But I'm going to tell you that you don't have to wait for Monday. You don't have to wait for January 1st. You don't have to wait for the next Fit Father transformation contest. You could literally do this today after you hear this podcast. And I'm going to tell you, your wife's going to look different at you. Your children are going to look different at you. And those you come in contact, I got people at work on conference calls like this one saying, Mike, you look great. What are you doing? Dude, I'm telling you, that's a big motivator. You know what? I love to share the same story that was told to me in 2019. Hey man, I know one thing, I'm not starving. Let me tell you a little bit about Fit Father.
That's beautiful. It's like, and that is actually what you just shared there. The last bit is my vision for what the Fit Father Project could be. Is more Michael Kellers out there on video conference calls and people being like, "Dude, what you doing?" And you'll be like, "Let me tell you."
Right.
And I think what's amazing is bringing you on to this show to be able to share your story. It's gonna hit home with a couple guys listening to this right now. And if a couple of guys are brave enough to kind of take up the charge like you did and put in the work and understand it's not going to be perfect, their
Right.
lives can change. Then we have more fit fathers, more fit kids, more fit families. And we can really shift the trajectory of all the stuff that's going around, because it's kind of BS and it sucks that so many guys are stuck in this shame loop. And it's not by accident. We have a society that makes it very easy to get caught up and not do the right things. But you got a system now. So Michael, I want to know, how is this sustainable for you? Like, why is this different, and how do you know this is going to stick on track? And if it's not, how do you know you're going to be able to get back on track? I want to talk about like the long term, like where you
Yeah.
see yourself in a couple years.
Yeah. So right now I'm in phase four. Love phase four, by the way. Thanks for adding that. I like to be able to jump from, the stack to the assault to Apex 10. I did a big five with my 13-year-old, teaching
Nice.
him how to squat. I really like the way it's put together, and you know, for me, moving forward is that the first time around in 2019, it kind of felt like I was getting success. I was feeling good, and I was running with it, but I didn't necessarily think about what would happen if I get sick, or what would happen. I kind of took for granted that I had some success. I felt good. You're kind of you want to reward yourself, so a little bit at a time you start compromising here, compromising there, and for me is that I've been doing that for 24 years since I got out of high school. It's like I know that um, my 19-year-old who's still with me, and he's planning on joining the Air Force too. He even said this. He said, "Dad, it's really cool that you've got Gabe in here now." He said, "I wish that could have been me."
Mm,
So I think that fathers listening, boys or girls, what we're teaching our kids, we think that a lot of us will repeat the patterns of our generation, and we try to learn, and there's so much information out there. And for me, moving forward, why this is sustainable, and I'm going to answer your question
mm,
right here, is that this time around, and what I'm doing and what I'm seeing, and taking the focus off of me now and seeing what it's happening to my family, is more encouragement, more of a focus than I could. I'm going to tell you, there's only so much that you can do for you before
yeah.
that just gets old. When you
Yeah.
start pouring into others, and seeing that it's changing them, they're learning different things. They're learning habits. I wish I'd known at 13 or 18. As long as those things continue, I have accountability with my brothers on Facebook. I've set myself up to where I'm getting my check-ins. I've got, planning in advance. There's just so many different things that look different this time around than it did the first time. And you know, over the last 2 years, your program has developed, and it's more sticky, I would
Hmm.
say. And the podcast is huge, man. I've listened to a couple of the other ones that Lee did, and and your nutrition stuff, man. It's just if you have a commute, 30 minutes, pop it in. I mean, I'm learning stuff about like milk. I think you did one about milk. It's like I really want to know about this stuff because I think knowledge is important, but I wasn't feeding myself that way. It's not, you know, you read this, do the workouts, eat this way. It's not that way at all. This is Fit Father for life,
Hmm.
for life. And I don't think that in 2019 I was looking at it as a for life. I was looking at it as, man, you know, John told me about this. It's working great, but, you know, it has stopped. And I didn't think about that. But it has to be that way. It really does. I don't think that you can't do this and then say next year I'm going to try something else. This is the building block for any father at our age or even younger or older that wants to make a difference in their family's life, make a difference for them. Because my mom's getting old. I see her, she can't get around. Weight has been a problem throughout our whole family, and it's just like I'm changing it. We're doing it. We're not doing that no more.
The shift is very clear from where you were in 2019 to where you are today. And it's foundational stuff. Your identity, how you've tied all this stuff to your family into something bigger than you. And what you said, I want to highlight because I think it's so true, is we can only pour so much into ourselves if we're doing this for even if it's to improve our health and get off the medication. Like, I mean, I think that's motivating to a certain level, but at the same time, we all know how self-destructive we can be,
Yes.
especially for guys that have been in the shame loop, right? You know,
Yeah.
but when we start to see the bigger picture, that this isn't just about us. This could be about our kids, about shifting generational patterns, about the next 20, 30 years of their lives, not just ours. And we wrap this all up. The kind of power that we tap into is unbelievable. And you really express that. And that makes me happier than you know,
Yeah.
because you have your system. And I think it's your system. It's sure it's the Fit Father principles, but you know, my goal was to help you develop your system. And you have it. You're working out with your son. You know, you're
Yeah.
figuring out the right kind of things that work for you. You have contingency plans for your travel because guess what? You're going to be traveling a lot for the next several years. Like that's not stopping. So if
That's
your
not a
plan
topic.
doesn't respect those things, then it's just it's got holes and bugs. But you figure that stuff out, and I'm really proud of you, Michael. This conversation means so much to me, and I hope it means a lot to the guys who are listening. You've shared a lot of good stuff, and I want to wrap this up. I want to open up the floor to you one more time to share any words of wisdom for guys who are starting out,
Yeah.
maybe some words for your fellow brothers, or anything you'd like to add to kind of wrap this conversation, put a nice bow on it.
I've always been of the mindset that tomorrow, 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 there's there may not be. And you know, I'm a kind of emotional guy if you hadn't picked up on that. And I'm gonna tell you right now, you don't have to wait for Monday. You don't have to wait for tomorrow because that mentality is what got me 24 years of disappointment, failures, vicious cycles, ups and downs. I don't care if I mess up on breakfast, I'm going to fix lunch. You know, if I don't get my workout in, it's not the end of the world, guys. If you drink too much on Tuesday, there's Wednesday, and you can constantly come back and say, you know what, one day is not going to take this away from me. 1 week's not going to take this away from me. Shoot, I almost had, let's see, from January, uh, almost an entire year where I fell out of the patterns, but it's not too late. You can get back into it. This information is invaluable. You know what? And the cost is nothing. Trust me. You put in more time and energy to get. It can't be any more clear. It's very guided. It's very specific. Follow it. It works. there is gray, there's always gray, but don't beat yourself up. Don't beat yourself up, because I'm going to tell you, right, I've been doing Fit Father collectively probably, let's see, what is it, July. So if you take the first time, over a year, I've gone through phase 1, 2, and 3 twice. Okay, listen to this, guys. And I still can't get peak 11, and I'm mad about that.
Mm-hmm.
But my point is, don't get discouraged. Don't beat yourself up. You don't have to do it exactly perfect. Tomorrow will come, but you got to take the opportunity right now to make the decision that I'm not going to let yesterday defeat me.
Yeah. And you do that, you maintain that mind frame every day moving forward. You have strength and flexibility.
Yeah.
It is a fresh day. There are new choices.
Right.
And when you're starting out, having a system that can help guide you to those early wins is huge. And then as you get that momentum, you start to learn the knowledge, like where it's not just a plan you follow, but it's like it starts to seep in. And the learning on this stuff, like we weren't taught the right kind of nutrition stuff in school. It's like we have to almost like go back and relearn these foundational things about our bodies in our 40s, 50s, and 60s. But if you can commit to that, which I hope we make it it sounds like we make it a good job in the program. It certainly worked for you and a lot of other guys. Your life can change just like yours did. So Michael, thank you. Thanks for being on here, for sharing your story. I want to say God bless you and your family and your kids and everyone listening to this podcast. I know in my heart that it's not only possible to be incredibly healthy in your 40s, 50s, and 60s. Like there's a path. Yeah. Michael's walking it. Lee's walking it. Glenn's walking it. Andre's walking it. All the guys on this show are walking it. And come join us. We'd love to walk with you. I think it's what really makes it so rewarding. So Michael, thanks for being on here, man. You're amazing, and I appreciate this so much.
It's been a pleasure, and if just one listens to this, it makes that choice. This whole conversation was worth it, and trust me, it will be worth it. So thank you for what you do, and I appreciate everyone at the Fit Father team. Thank you again for this time, and hey, God bless.
God bless.